welcome to our Thursday Live. We thank you for watching and we thank you for subscribing. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Today we have an exciting family that will be joining us. Nick and his wife and his 9-year-old son from Australia have been traveling on the road for the past 15 months, living in the old school bus, sharing a positive effect of collective meditation. And Nick has put together a presentation that used the latest scientific research to show how we have a genuine, measurable solution for world peace, which we needed so badly. The family, Nick and the family, will continue doing this until 2020. And we'll be settling and creating a spiritual community after that. And so without further ado, welcome, Nick. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Nick, share with us what inspired you and the family to take on this big mission?
Well, again, we were not looking for a spiritual teacher when we found a spiritual teacher. That was back in 2008. And, you know, a lot of the concepts like spiritual channels, things like this was all brand new to me. So, you know, I'm not very easily convinced. So when I heard that my spiritual teacher was to say, you know, if you did these specific practices, you would open those spiritual channels. At the time, you know, I come from a physical training background. I've always done a lot of physical exercise. So at that time, I basically swapped my physical training for meditation. And I was doing 3 to 5 hours meditation a day. I was chanting mantras and doing all of the techniques that my teacher was sharing. And long story short, within 12 months, I was having incredible spiritual images and experiences. So then over the years, I was really passionate on, do we have a solution? Now, you know, my spiritual teacher, Dr. Master Zhigang Shah, he covers many different areas, as you know, quantum physics,
yes,
becoming a healer, healing yourself, calligraphy. But one thing I was drawn to was his movements, his spiritual movement, the love, peace, harmony movement. So when I went down that road of wanting to see, do we have a solution? I couldn't believe how much scientific research there is out there to show that we have a solution, and it's not as difficult as we think. So 2018, we said, let's do it. You know, I think people are ready. There is a shift in consciousness. You know, even people that were very closed to what we were doing are definitely becoming more open. And we decided as a family, you know, my wife received the message probably 12 months before we did it. But when we were all on board, we all decided now's the time to try and get this message out. We felt there was an urgency, but also an awakening, and people were ready for it. And from deciding we were going to do it, we literally, from that point, by saying yes and then surrendering to what life presented us with, we ended up moving into a bus within 3 months.
Wow.
We got rid of all of our belongings, all of our furniture, everything, and we were living in a bus within 3 months. So, and the response has been very heart-touching from everyone we've met in Australia. So people are ready for this, and people are ready for change. They know what doesn't work. And yeah, there's been meditation groups open all around Australia that are coming together.
Wow. You know, Nick, it's one thing that you take on that spiritual journey, but to have your whole family all agree, how did you do that? Because I know there's a lot of spiritual souls that are on this journey and are having difficulty with their spouse. You know, they're not ready and they're not supportive. How were you able to get your whole family to be on board?
Well, in that, I've got to say, in that sense, we're very lucky because we found Master Shah together. We found our spiritual path together. Every single thing we've done spiritually has been together with the family, and everything we do is together. So in terms of me, my wife, and my son, that's just how we've always rolled, and I'm very fortunate in that aspect. In terms of friends and family outside of the three of us, again, from experience, I'll share an experience I had when I did first start my spiritual journey. I was doing spiritual practice, and I was doing that of an evening and on weekends. And then when I was with my friends and work colleagues, I was being the old me, and I didn't feel too authentic. And I pride myself on being authentic. And my Buddhist mentor took me to a Tao temple. And when we were in the Tao temple, there was a painting of the 8 immortals on the wall. And she said to me, she said, Nick, she said, look at the 8 immortals. Okay, there is a cripple, there's a homeless person, there's basically 8 different types of being there. And she said, through the 8 different people, they can reach all of humanity. Okay, the 8 people are the 8 different walks of humans. And she said, you need to find what aspect of humanity you've come here to serve. And I nearly fell over. It was a real spiritual breakthrough for me. And I realized that if I can't bridge my teacher's wisdom to my friends and family, then I'm doing something wrong. And to answer the question, one thing I've learned is living the teaching is how we bridge that gap. See, I've tried many things, and we have as a family on this trip. I've tried not sharing what I do with people. We went through a phase where I said, you know what, I'm not going to tell anybody what we do. And even by doing that, I noticed that if I was on the beach or I was walking the dog, I got talking to somebody about general day-to-day things. Within 5 minutes, we'd be having a spiritual conversation, and that wasn't down to me starting that conversation. So I think trying to tell somebody about spirituality or trying to push spirituality doesn't work. I think the best thing we can do is live the teaching and represent what your teaching or your guru stands for.
When you were saying that, when you shared that story of what aspect that you came here to make a difference, I was just getting chills. That is such a profound wisdom to receive that from just looking at the 8 immortals, and to really trigger you to really understand that is your true soul purpose, what it is. Because a lot of people are searching for their true soul purpose. And not only that, when you were saying living and being the example of that person that you are sharing is also one of the key important that a lot of people don't really share, because they kind of hide in the closet when they're doing this kind of stuff, because fear of family member thinking that they're weird or, not, but for you to be able to bring that and now is feeling comfortable and sharing with the world, that's amazing.
I think as well, it comes down to trusting yourself, because, one thing again, and this is probably from even before I started my spiritual journey, is, I've always considered myself a loyal person, and people trust me. So even if it might be way out there for them, they trust me. And I've never, I was a salesman in England. I sold cars for 2 years. And I always say, trying to get someone to part with £15,000 for a car is hard. If they think you're trying to sell them something, then they're gone. And you should try and sell somebody something. So when you're looking at spirituality, it's very personal. It's very, I don't see it as my job to bring people to my teacher. I don't see that being my job. I don't think, if I see true Buddhist practitioners or Taoist practitioners, they don't try and bring people to Buddhism. They represent Buddhism well. If you see some of the top teachers, top masters, they don't say much, but people are drawn to them.
Yes.
Why is that? It's because they live the teaching. The Buddha said to his students, he said, you don't see the Dharma, you see me. What he's saying is they're attached to him. But really, he is the Buddha because he lives the Dharma, he lives the teaching. So again, I think for anybody out there who may be having issues with their family, don't try and defend anything. Don't try and defend anything. Don't try and defend what you're doing. Just be an example. And eventually people will, if you're benefiting in your life from it, then everyone doesn't want suffering. You get me? So, I've found over the years, I've never judged my family. My family are not necessarily on the spiritual journey, but as far as I still see them as very spiritual beings because they give you the skin off their back. They're very generous. They're very loyal. They're beautiful people. And they're still my examples. My mum and dad are two of the most salt of the earth people I've ever met, So I've always loved them. And this is just what I do now. And it's not, I'm still me. You know what I mean? I'm still me. I'm just trying to be a better me.
That's so amazing. You touched some key point when you were starting. You were sharing with us about the urgency of this time that we are living in. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. I don't think it takes, a rocket scientist to see that we can't keep going the way that we're going. And my brain, I'm the type of person who needs to understand everything and I question everything. And, when I see people who are passionate about the vegan movements, for example, and how animals are treated, they're very compassionate. I believe, it's a beautiful cause. But if you're passionate about politics, the environment, education, for me, from my research and my practice, it doesn't matter what area you're passionate in. Right. The solution is the same. And the solution is raising human consciousness. If humanity become conscious, we'll see changes in every single area. We'll see it in politics. We'll see it in how we farm, how we treat animals, how we treat the air. So, and again, I think that even the old school mindset, some of the people who are really rigid, I think people are just ready for change now. I mean, I don't like touching on politics, okay? Trump is a very touchy subject. I'm not saying he's the answer, but for me, it was a really beautiful moment when he came in because when I saw that, I thought the American people wanted something different, okay? So I'm not talking about Trump, but it moved me. I thought this is just another sign of human consciousness being ready for change, okay? And I see it everywhere. People who I couldn't talk to about certain things even 3 years ago are coming to me now and we're having deep conversations. So it's a beautiful time to be alive. And many people think you might have to go out there, and that's what we're doing. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to align with this awakened consciousness, just become conscious. That's your contribution. Just if you want a real simple practice, it's live in the present moment.
So that, just for those who are just beginning to awaken and not really clear of when you're saying raise the human consciousness, can you share a little bit in detail what that is?
Yeah.
For somebody who's never, just beginning to understand this.
I'm going to see how I can do it the simplest way and we can touch on quantum physics, but I heard Deepak Chopra say once that our reality is a moment by moment manifestation of the collective consciousness. So, in some of my meditations, I always get people to, observe, close their eyes, rest their awareness on their hands. Okay? Then move your awareness to your heart. Then maybe move your awareness to your mind. Move your awareness to your thoughts. So at that point, the question is, who is observing? Okay? If you can observe your mind, there's an awareness that's not the mind. Okay? So as far as I'm aware, that awareness that can rest its awareness on any aspect of the body is the spirit. The spirit is what the soul is, what gives life to the body. Now, I think that, if we look at the quantum physics model, 96% of our universe is non-atomic, 4% is atomic, and of that 4%, it either behaves as particle or waves, depending on whether it's being observed by consciousness or a spirit, whatever you want to call it. Therefore, what we observe is what we experience. What that observing consciousness, that spirit observes, is what we experience. That's why the spiritual journey is the internal journey. And I'm going to refer to a number of different masters here. Sadhguru, for example, is a very popular guru in India right now. And he says, all life experience is experienced on the inside. If someone was to pinch your hand, you would feel the pain on the inside. If you're in love with somebody and you feel love is in the air on the outside, it feels like that because you're feeling love on the inside. Therefore, when you're madly in love, for example, you're observing a different world. So again, I don't want to go down the conspiracy road, but when you look at how the mainstream is constantly bombarding us with negativity, we then create the world that they want us to live in because we're easily controlled. We're divided and controlled. So shifting the consciousness, which I think is a universal process. I hear Eckhart Tolle say that for human beings to evolve beyond the ego, which is unconsciousness, is the result of that is a far more conscious humanity. Okay, so once we've gone through the separation of the ego to evolving beyond that and seeing everything as one, that's an even greater evolution in human consciousness. So if the whole world became conscious and took responsibility for their internal state, stopped projecting into the future, which fundamentally causes anxiety because they're creating an imagination of, and in most cases, a negative outcome in the future that hasn't happened yet, and then feeding it, or reliving past traumas, which usually causes depression. If everybody was to move into the present moment and feel life, and because life is happening now, whatever happens in the future will happen in the present, whatever happened in the past happened in the present. So most people spend their least amount of time in the present moment, and it's the only time we have. So I think if everybody became conscious and could move from the head into the heart, we would observe a different world, therefore manifest it. So maybe I've gone a little bit all over the place there, but fundamentally I see the present moment as being a shift in consciousness and a journey from the head to the heart.
That's amazing to be able to just connect the science aspect. And I'm going to have you elaborate a little bit because, you shared with us about the solution of world peace, which is a big, major task to take on. Can you go into detail how you go about doing it to bring it to worldwide? I noticed that you're doing it now in Australia, and how's that been going?
One thing I've learned from this trip, and the answer to that question is, I believe we don't reach world peace by telling people to become conscious. We reach world peace by each one of us becoming conscious. If I don't practice what I preach, and I've done this, don't get me wrong, I've given presentations and not felt very harmonious inside, or, lost my temper after it, and my words are empty. Okay, so the key is to enlighten yourself first. The Buddha said, a Buddhist analogy is, if somebody's drowning and you jump in to save them and you can't swim, you both drown.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you know, the best way to reach people is to live the teaching, live the example, and that comes from going within, doing the work. I don't think it can be done fast. You know, I still get insights into Love, Peace, Harmony, the song, all the time. And I've been working with it for 9 years. I've been on my spiritual journey for 9 years. Somebody asked me a few months ago, how would you explain being on a spiritual journey for 9 years? And my answer was, I feel like a baby. I feel like a baby. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface. That's what's beautiful about meditation and the spiritual journey, is because even when I look at my teacher, when I look at my teacher's growth, he's not stopping. He hasn't plateaued. He's continuing all the time to grow. So, you know, that's exciting. But to bring about world peace, it's each one of our responsibility, and it's about changing our internal state. It's about becoming peace. If you want to see peace in the world, be peaceful.
So how would an individual, as they are obviously wanting world peace but are struggling within themselves, what are some of the key points that you have used for yourself to help find the peace within your soul so that you can apply on a daily basis?
Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, because I've seen and I've done trying to be somebody I'm not, trying to speed up the spiritual journey. You've got to put the work in. You know, with myself, I know my mind is so strong. You know, I share the stories. My wife's very sensitive. Okay, so she may add like a reishi powder or a chaga mushroom to her diet and feel the benefits from that. I'm quite dense. Okay, so I can add those things to my diet and I don't feel much difference. So what do I feel most difference from? It's meditation. Okay, if I'm not meditating, if I'm not doing the best to control my mind and doing the practice, then I become very much in the world. I react to things. I can feel it straight away. And I always say, you know, a lot of people focus on nutrition and diet. You can either have the best diet in the world, but if you're stressed, you're still inflamed, you're still acidic, and you're still, you know, you're going to have physical issues. But yeah, it just comes down to doing the practice. Like for me, I have to do the practice. I have to meditate and be honest with myself throughout the day. You know, if I'm not living what I'm sharing, then be honest. You know, in my meditations, reflect on what I need to improve on. For somebody listening to this who's never meditated before, I would keep it very, very simple, you know. And I would say the present moment is the fundamental teaching of meditation, is the fundamental basis of every religion. And I think, you know, if you are suffering with anxiety or depression, or you just feel like you're lost in the world, just reflect on how much you spend actually fully present. You know what I mean? And that's the foundation. Start there. And then if you want to take it further, then maybe introduce, read some spiritual text, read some Buddhism, read some Taoism, see what resonates with you. Because as much as my teacher teaches Tao, as much as I've worked with the Tao Te Ching for 8 years, and I love Taoist philosophy and teaching, nothing really moves me quite like Buddhism, which, you know, if I listen to certain sutras or mantras, you know, I literally feel like crying, you know, there's like a real memory there. So that means that you've done it in a past life. So if you can find what you resonate with, then I believe your practice will be a lot faster and you'll feel like you're progressing more. So I'll just say you find out that you really resonate with the Quran, you feel like you've read that text many times, then then go in that direction. You know what I mean? And then start doing a specific spiritual practice. Like sorry, go on.
No. It sounds like what you're saying is just kind of take a moment and listen to your heart, what feels right for you. There's no one particular way of doing it, but whatever resonate with your heart, that is what is the answer for the individual, correct?
100%. So basically, it's a journey from the mind to the heart. You know, if you're watching somebody speak and they've just say they've lost a son, okay, they've lost a child, and they share their experience and they move to tears because they're so in their heart. Even if it's you're watching a replay or you're somewhere else in the world, it'll move you. Okay, you could cry watching that and feel what that person's going through, and that is the power of the human heart. The Institute of HeartMath are doing some amazing research on it. The heart houses the mind. Recent insights I got from my spiritual teacher is when we look at traditional Chinese medicine, the unbalanced emotion of the heart is depression and anxiety. So if you've had past trauma, or your parents or somebody's, you know, hasn't shown you love or whatever, if you close your heart, you become mind dominated. When you're in your mind most of the time, you live in either the past or the future most of the time, which creates depression and anxiety. So you're absolutely right. The more that we can come out of our thinking, stop the stream of thinking, and move into the heart, that allows a biochemical change as well. You know, the Institute of HeartMath have got a beautiful practice, which they've proven scientifically, which is close your eyes. And we can do it now, actually. Anybody who's listening to this, we can do this now. It's very simple. So close your eyes and rest your awareness on your breath. Feel your breath, the air coming in and leaving the body. And slow the breathing down to roughly 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Then place one hand over your heart and then move your attention to the space of your heart. Now, by simply doing that, it signals that the body is safe, and the body starts to release life-affirming chemistry, okay? But we're gonna add emotion. So I want you to mentally visualize something you deeply love, and then feel love in your heart, in the body. What does love feel like? The next emotion is gratitude. Think of something you are deeply grateful for, and then feel gratitude in the body. There's two more emotions. The next emotion is care. Think of something you deeply care about, and then feel care in the body. And the last emotion is compassion. Okay, compassion is love with understanding. Understand the suffering that's going on in the world, and feel compassion in the body. Now, that feeling that you're having in your body, when the heart and the mind come into coherence, the body releases over 1,300 life-affirming chemicals into the body. We now know that we interact with the field through what we feel in the body, in the heart. So you can open your eyes whenever you're ready. And we did that fast. I would usually do that slower. But that is one simple practice that can bring us out of the mind into the heart. Stops the stream of thinking, transforms the biochemistry in the body, releases life-affirming chemistry, and yet moves us into the heart. It bypasses the conscious thinking and allows us to become more intuitive as well.
That was beautiful, Nick. Even though it's just short, it literally kind of slowed down the mind. Actually, the mind wasn't even thinking at all. You actually brought the attention to the heart, and you can actually feel how warm when you bring in the emotions of the love, the compassion, the caring, and the gratitude. It just purifies your heart and relaxes the mind, and allows the body to feel that energy. And that's, you know, for someone who just beginning, that is the best guidance meditation wise. Would you say 5 to 10 minute would do more benefits than the medications? Or we're not going to go there, but I mean, there's a lot of people who are depressed and have anxiety. Could they just use this as a daily practice to improve their well-being?
Absolutely. And this has been scientifically proven by the Institute of HeartMath. They've measured the effects of this. But the conscious mind will ask for the scientific research.
Yes.
But what I would always suggest to people is trust yourself and be your own scientist. Okay? I would not expect anyone to do anything that didn't work, but start off with this practice. It's very simple, and you can measure. How do you measure? How do you measure if something's effective? Your degree of peace. Okay? If you are feeling peaceful after you do that, then it's working. Okay? So this is a very simple practice to start. See, my suggestion would be dedicate half an hour to a specific practice a day, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. But throughout your day, maybe do this practice maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Because this practice that we've just gone through, 5 minutes, you can do that in your lunch break. You could do that if you're feeling a bit stressed at work and you want to go to the toilet. You can do it in the toilet. So this is a practical technique for throughout your day, but I would always suggest dedicating a specific time of your day to a practice to apply. For example, you know, our teacher, Master Shah, talks about the 4 power techniques. What are those techniques? They are techniques to get you into a condition. Okay, the condition is the meditation. The condition we get in is what interacts with the field, which changes the biochemistry, which connects us to the spiritual dimension, to higher benevolent beings. The feeling is the meditation. The techniques are to get us there. So it might be sound power, chanting a mantra, body power, specific hand positions, mind power, putting your focus somewhere, creating a visualization, and soul power. Soul power, you know, even people who are skeptical, I say, do a meditation without soul power, and then get yourself into a condition first, and then apply soul power and see if you feel any different. Because a lot of people think that we're the highest intelligence. And, you know, it's very ignorant to think that. If you don't think that there's higher, more benevolent and conscious beings than us, then, you know, I think you're in your mind too much. So why would you not call a Buddha? Or, you know what I mean? Why would you not call Jesus? They carry their own wisdom, their own message. So, you know, I think if you were doing half an hour to an hour's practice a day, you could apply these techniques, deeper techniques, and maybe chant a mantra. But the practice we've just done is a very practical technique for throughout the day.
That's a beautiful tip there. I mean, compared to you doing 3 to 5 hours a day, 30 minutes is nothing.
Well, you just got to build up to that. You know, if you're not, you know, I'll tell you something as well. I was the first time I tried meditation, it was to try and still the mind. Okay. For someone like me, that was impossible in the beginning. So I've always been pretty strong-willed. So I'll really try and grind it out, but I was not getting anywhere. The 4 power techniques did make a difference. You know, I have a young friend right now, a good guy, and he's asking me a few, different bit of guidance on how to build his energy and things like that. And I said to him, you know, a lot of people feel uncomfortable chanting a mantra. Okay, we talk about this in the presentation. You know, if you're chanting a mantra, you're turning your physical body into another instrument to add another dimension of contribution to the whole, and also a stronger vibrational field. And the chanting was what helped me in the beginning, because trying to still my mind just wasn't happening. So when I could actually visualize something, okay, my mind's got something to do, and by chanting a mantra like Om Mani Padme Hum or whatever it was, I would just chant and chant and chant and chant and chant. And I found that it put me in a a state of just vibration. That's all I can say. My body just felt like it was vibrating out of control. And then when I would stop chanting, the stillness was way more profound. You know what I mean? So that's what I said to my friend. I said, you know, maybe you don't feel comfortable chanting in front of your friends, but get into a location where you can chant and chant your ass off, you know, chant as much as you can, because it is very, very beneficial. And there's reasons why you look at the Hindus and the Buddhists, they'll chant for hours and hours and hours. They'll chant through the night.
Well, because, you know, we are all energy being, and when you chant, you actually create sound, and sound is frequency. And as you chant with these words, they carry a higher vibrational energy within that tone in that mantra. I mean, the spiritual teachers and Buddhists knew that's why they created it, because it allowed human being to increase their vibrational energy so that they could reach their higher consciousness. That's why they left that mantra for us. And if you continue to study, like, you know, in the research of sound, now they're actually bringing sound as a treatment.
Yep.
Frequency vibrations.
Yep.
So when you're saying
because everything's frequency and vibration.
Right. So the mantra have a high frequency, and that's why you feel like you're in euphoric state of mind.
Correct.
Yes.
I also talk about it in the presentation. I share the research of cymatics. I don't know whether you're familiar with cymatics.
Yes.
Yeah. So cymatics, they put a fine in the 70s. They put a fine sand on a steel plate, and they hit it with a frequency, and the vibration caused it to make geometric shapes, patterns.
Yes.
And the higher the frequency, the more complex the shapes.
Yes.
Well, if you look what they're doing now, they have something called the cymoscope. And the cymoscope is a more sensitive digital representation of that. So, you know, when you look at the image, it's a two-dimensional image. But what they believe, what they're saying is that when we're talking, sound waves don't do this. These geometric shapes, they come out like bubbles, countless bubbles going out into the cosmos and into our environment. So you think of a Buddhist monk who's sitting there chanting Om Mani Padme Hum non-stop. What they're doing is they're changing the structure of the water in their body. You know, I listened to a TED talk. They said they used to think we were 70% water. They now believe we're 90% water. So the sound influences the water in the body, purifies the water, changes our emotional state, okay, which again affects the water, it affects our DNA. But not only that, you are sending out ripples, harmonious ripples into your environment, and you're making a bridge. You're connecting a bridge to, in that case, Guanyin and all of the Buddhas that are linked to that mantra. So when you're creating a vibrational match for them to come and serve you. So, you know, it's very simple. We can explain it very simply in today, which is very exciting. I think now is such an exciting time that we have so many ways to explain for the logical mind.
Definitely, when you were mentioning that, you know, 90%, I always assumed that was 85% was, but 90%, can you imagine those who are drinking everything else but water, what they're doing to their body? And as the frequency that are coming into the earth right now, it is so high frequency. I'm seeing a lot of people who having all kinds of symptoms going on right now. They can't sleep, they have migraines, they have pains, they're confused, and simply just by drinking more water, well, of course, pure, clean water, to help the body, because that, like the cymatic, it changes the structure, molecular structure within our cell. So for those who have a dehydrated body, it could explode the cell, right? When the frequency is so high. So
it's a good point, but when we look at Dr. Emoto's work and we see the effects on water, again, it comes back to your internal state, because if you're in a stressed state, your water is being polluted inside your body. So I spoke to a gentleman who had a market stall when we were traveling, and he was selling all these different devices to purify your water. And I said to him, if you don't mind me asking, because we spoke for 5 minutes, I could see that he was very knowledgeable. And I said to him, if you don't mind me asking, what's your opinion on the effects of consciousness on water? And he looked at me and he said, everything I sell works. Okay, it's all good. He said, but nothing is as powerful as consciousness on water. And he said, but a lot of people don't understand it. Okay, but he said, if we could all come together with the same collective intention, which is, again, this shift in the consciousness, we can purify our oceans very fast. Because our reality is 99.129 space or possibility, information. So it's, when we look at that, I'll share a little bit about that as well in the presentation. Joe Dispenza, I believe, is really cutting edge with his work right now, because what Joe Dispenza is doing is he's measuring the effects of people meditating in his workshops. If you go to one of his advanced retreats, he's wiring up the students in real time. So they do a collective meditation. He's measuring the students' biochemical changes, the energy of the room, brainwave activity, all in real time. Okay, so what he says in his research, he says, if you were to get an atom and expand it, so the size of the nucleus was the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and the electron would be about the size of a pea. He said the distance between the two would be 85,000 square miles. Okay, that's twice the size of Colombia, and that's what our reality is made up of. So if this reality, we can't really find it. Let's face it, every time they try and find matter, they can't find it. It just becomes more and more vibrational frequency. Then when we go back to what we were talking about, the observer, the observant consciousness that is not in time and space, okay? The soul does not exist in time and space. It observes time and space, okay? The body, the Buddha said, everything is impermanent. The body is subject to time and space. If you were to, a Zen analogy is if you were to get a photograph of you as a baby, a toddler, a teenager, an adult, you see that the body is always changing, but there is a presence there that is always present. That observant consciousness, that spirit that is always present, is observing three-dimensional reality. So that observer, when we all come from that point of observation and we observe the same world, we observe and feel world peace, we can create it because it exists in the field. It exists in the 99.129 space. So it's the same with the water in the body. And I've just gone all around the world to answer that. It's good to stay hydrated, but fundamentally, it still is important that we move into the heart and we become conscious observer of this experience. Then we can purify our bodies. We can purify the water, our emotional state, and give off a vibrational frequency that can help people around us.
Wow, that's amazing. So we just lost Judy a little bit, so she might be joining back again, but I think her connection's off a little bit. Oh, there she is. But to add on top of that, I mean, Dr. Emoto has been kind of front thinker of pioneering like the water consciousness, right? Isn't he?
Yes. Yep.
How does that? Have you like read any? What's the effect on that when people meditate? You know, after they pray and drink water, does it help them get deeper into their meditation? Is there any correlations between the two?
At the end of the day, you are water, as we've just discussed, 90% water. Okay, so if you add water, you know, I read Amma's book. Amma's a hugging saint, and she's hugged, I think, up to over 20 million people now. Okay, I had a friend who was a devotee of hers, and I share her story because her mindset, she is in a state of unconditional love all the time. Okay, so her philosophy is, if God wants me to die today, I'll die. Okay. There's a story in her book where, because she was a female guru in India, she had such a hard journey. Okay? She went through such spiritual, physical, mental, emotional challenges. And in one of the stories in the book, somebody came to an ashram to kill her. And there's apparently a famous ancient poison. Okay? I think it's made from like cobra venom and something else. It's meant to be excruciating, and you're meant to die very fast. Somebody came into the ashram pretending to be a devotee and offering her a drink. And she knew that what this person's agenda was. She took the drink and she drank it. Okay? She just drank it.
Okay.
And after like 5 minutes, she threw it up. And when the guy who gave her it saw it, he bowed down and apologized and was so sincere in his forgiveness, and I think may even be a devotee now. Why am I sharing that story? Because the observing consciousness we've just discussed is the governor of whether our water is in good health inside the body. So if we look at Amma, if she drank polluted water, that polluted water would become pure water in her system because her vibration is so high. Make sense?
That makes sense.
So if you look at Dr. Emoto's research, Dr. Emoto has proven how one person can affect a glass of water. If he turns around and says, I hate you to the glass of water, it can't produce crystals. If he says, I love you, it can produce crystals. So if that's one person on a glass of water, what can 7.5 or 7.7 billion people do?
Wow.
And we need to understand this, because this is why the presentation is structured the way it is. I've designed it for skeptics, because once you understand it, it's simple. It doesn't become complicated anymore. It becomes simple, and you play a part in it. You know, the time that we're living in now is so unique, because I've looked into Mayan calendars, you know, Chinese, Aztec, so many different traditions have time cycles. Okay, suggest a book by Greg Braden called Fractal Time. Beautiful book. So when you're looking at time cycles, what's unique now is there's a number of time cycles. Some are 5,000 years, 15,000 years, 21,000 years. A number of them are coming together now at the same time. So the time that we're living in is the time that all of our ancestors pointed to as the great time of change. And it's the time that our future generations are going to look back on as the great time of change. And if you think you're here by accident, you're wrong. Whether you agree with me or not, you look at how many souls there are in the soul world. You look at how many locations there are in the cosmos. You look at how many timelines, relative timelines there are. Me and you are talking now. Do you think we've never been together before? We have. If you're here right now, you're here for a reason. And when people understand that their contribution is needed, it's not a time now to sit back and say, I'll just wait for somebody else to do it. This isn't the time to do that. The time now is we all have to contribute to this. And that doesn't mean pushing it on people. It means becoming conscious. You want to align with this universal shift in consciousness, become conscious. It's really that simple. Cut out negativity. I always say this. Mainstream media. Cut it out. I also share research that shows the effects of human emotion on DNA, the observer effect, a number of different things that show how we affect our environment. Things like when a practitioner moves into negative emotions like fear, anger, separation, jealousy, when they put what they call pristine DNA, it's the umbilical DNA from the umbilical cord of a baby, perfect DNA. When that was placed in the magnetic field of a human heart of a practitioner, they were not connected in any way. They were not related. When this practitioner embodied negative emotions, the DNA began to coil up and couldn't express itself. When he moved into positive, coherent emotions, heart-based emotions, the DNA began to lengthen out, almost flat, and then multiply. So why am I sharing that? If you're watching the news, okay, you're watching the mainstream media, and you have not got to a point in yourself where you can handle that type of information, that information is going to enter your field. Your DNA is going to curl up, okay? You're not going to be able to express yourself. You're going to vibrate lower. You're going to become more matter, more attached to the material world. You're going to move into fear. You're going to see yourself as a separate being in this world, and you're going to look outside, and you're fundamentally going to be in the state that human beings have been in the old consciousness. So first step, you want a spiritual practice, stop watching mainstream media. That's the first spiritual practice. When I turned off the news and stopped watching the newspapers, I couldn't believe the difference. It was the most tangible spiritual experience I'd ever had.
That's why they tell people to go back to nature.
Absolutely.
To get healed.
Absolutely.
But that brings
Absolutely.
you put up a really good perspective there. It's almost like the way I'm understanding you is basically how much light you have, and if you don't go into the conscious state, if you haven't tried it yet and you're exposed to all these negativities, it's gonna put you in that state unless you're stronger than that. Your light is stronger than that. So it's like an example that you gave with the water, right? Your body, if your body vibrates consciously very high, you can take a polluted water and that water become clean because it's sitting in a pool in your auric field of your body that vibrates at a higher state. Therefore,
Correct.
It cannot live in a higher state. So for all of
Correct.
us, in order to get there, we kind of have to step away from the negativity and work on ourselves and grow our own spiritual light. So that way, when it becomes strong enough, it can go back in and to assist those who need help with their light. Is that what I'm kind of understanding?
You're spot on. I couldn't have put it better myself. So you really hit the nail on the head. And that's actually a journey I went through. I went into the spiritual practice, and then I felt comfortable enough to share what I do. You know what I mean? But you banged on the money. It's all vibration, and that's why you can only help yourself, really. You can help others, but you help others by working on yourself. Raising your field. And I think so many people don't trust themselves anymore. Like, they don't trust themselves as a parent. They don't trust themselves with their own health. And it's because we're so mind dominated. I think if you could really stop the stream of thinking, even if it was just through resting your awareness on your breath, and then watch the news, and then observe how you feel. Be your own scientist. You don't need somebody else to tell you. I don't want anybody to believe what I say. Okay, I want everybody to experience it yourself. And if what I say doesn't work, why would you do it? I don't expect you to do it. But become still, watch the news, and then observe how you feel. Then maybe rest yourself again, and then watch somebody doing something selfless. Watch a video that's inspirational. Somebody is doing something kind, and then observe how you feel. Be your own scientist. It feels nice when we're moved by compassionate acts.
Wow. Yeah, I think that really makes sense. Like what you just put it right there. Like observe how you feel, because that's when I started my spiritual journey. It's amazing how these feelings that I just want to, like anger, resentment, all that feeling that I'm working on, I kind of observe it when I step out and just observe myself as a third person, and to see how that, how I act. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like this. So I try something else to see if I feel better. And over time, I kind of observe and see, kind of like a scale. I see, like if your anger is like at 80, and then maybe like if you keep working on it over time, the highest you can go is like at 20. Then you're making improvements, and you just kind of.
That's called becoming conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's just becoming conscious. It's learning to feel again. Mm-hmm. When we're so mind dominated, we lose connection with the body. We don't know what we're feeling. Some people use the term, they say, I feel numb. They feel numb because, I also love Wim Hof's breathing. I don't know whether you're familiar with Wim Hof. I've been to see him twice. He's an amazing man. He holds 27 world records. And he has a breathing technique. And whenever I've led people through the breathing technique, the first thing they say is, wow, my mind stopped, but I feel the body. Okay, you flood the body with oxygen, and your every cell in your body is tingling. And I've seen people cry. I've seen people cry. Like, I've never felt so in the body and so peaceful. And, you know, we did the meditation and we helped some students in Adelaide, you know, over the past month, establish a meditation group, 3 beautiful sisters. And the first group they did, Silvana, one of the sisters, she got people to just stop and settle down for literally 10 minutes. And one woman was crying. They all had these beautiful experiences, and as me watching it, because I was there to just assist, Silvana was doing the meditation. When we all like shared a little bit at the end, I said it still blows me away to this day, the how dramatic an experience can be of just stopping for 10 minutes. You look at people, no one stops. I get people contacting me from all over the world suffering with insomnia. The first thing I say is, when you get in bed, where's your focus? They say, I'm either focusing on a confrontation I'm going to have or an argument I've had. So the body follows the mind. If you're thinking about a stressful situation you're going to be in tomorrow, your body thinks it's happening now. You release all this adrenaline and you're lying in bed. How are you going to go to sleep? So by just stopping, you know, in this meditation, everybody there, these women, they just stopped, focused on their breathing for 10 minutes. And they were all had profound experiences. It was beautiful, but it was also a real eye-opener, because it's frightening to think, especially in this technological age we're in, with everyone on their phones all the time. It's frightening to think nobody takes 10 minutes to stop. So it's an important point.
That is so profound, Nick, with all the information that you're sharing with us. And this is one of the main reasons, if not for you to lead this love, peace, and harmony movement, correct?
Correct.
Can you share a little bit in detail this movement and what does it entail?
Yep. So the love, peace, harmony. One thing I say is, again, whenever I share the information first, okay, that we have a solution, that we can influence our environment, and then when it comes to share what I'm sharing, I also let people know that there's a lot of collective meditations out there, okay? And whatever resonates with them, do it. I share love, peace, harmony because it's what me and my family have experienced for the past 9 years. I've experienced the benefits of it, and it has the added dimension of sound, okay?
And is that
so
lovepeaceharmony.org? Is that the website?
Yes, lovepeaceharmony.org. So the song has been copyrighted to humanity. It's our song, it's our movement. The goal is to get 1.5 billion people meditating and singing one song together by 2020. Okay, you know, the conversation we've just had, I often get people to close their eyes and just observe the world we live in right now. And if you do that, with no attachments, no judgments, just observe the world we're living in right now. Observe the state of our oceans. Observe how humanity acts. Humanity has separated themselves from nature and feel that we can conquer nature. And as a result of that, nature is showing us that we're not going to last long by doing that. Now, imagine 1.5 billion people and more all around the world coming together with a collective intention of bringing love, peace, and global harmony to all humanity, all the animals and species and insects and everything on the planet, nature itself, and observe what that world would look like. You know, I often think this time we're living in, it's such a unique time to be alive. Would you like to say that you were a part of this collective conscious, this collective change, this, you know, if humans make it, and it's not inevitable that we will, but, you know, if the human species makes it and we become a conscious species on this planet and we heal the earth and we move with nature, and you were alive to see that, because I do believe whether it's positive or negative, we're going to experience change in this life. Wouldn't you want to be a part of that? You know, I listened to a conversation from a beautiful Hindu monk called Dandapani recently, and he said he has a 300-year plan. And his 300-year plan is what is he doing now that will benefit the world in 300 years, even after he's gone. And he said something that really moved me. He said to the interviewer, he said, "Do you have kids?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you love them?" The interviewer said, "Yes." He said, "Can you imagine how you'd feel if you were to hold your grandchildren? Would you love them?" He said, I can imagine, that's beautiful. And he said, "How would you feel if you could hold your great-grandchildren?" And, you know, the interviewer said it would just be unbelievable. It would be beautiful. And Dandapani turned around and he said, "What are you doing now to create a world for them to thrive in?" So when we look at the Love, Peace, Harmony movement, it's not rocket science. If you want to take part in every day, I always suggest at least 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. Settle yourself, okay? Move into a coherent state. Apply the 4 power techniques, or even the practice we've just done. Move into the heart. Play the song. I still get insights into the song. 5 lines that are not accidental lines. I love my heart and soul. I love all humanity. Join hearts and souls together. Love, peace, harmony. Love, peace, harmony. When you look at those lines, it's a blueprint for world peace. Every spiritual tradition that I have studied, the foundation is to enlighten yourself, is to love yourself. I can't give someone $1 million if I don't have it. I can't give somebody love if I don't have it. So first is to find God, that, you know, whatever you want to call it, your spirit, whatever resonates with you, find that in yourself, your connection to everything else, and love it. Be love. And then a natural progression from that is, like Sadhguru says, if you in love, you see love outside of you, it's because you're feeling it on the inside. The next step is line 2. I've seen so many people try and love people, move straight to line 2 without working on themselves. It doesn't work that way. You love yourself first. Your love then moves into every outside, line 2. You love everything, the trees, the buildings, you love everything. Then there is a divine calling. Okay, then you, through your experience, you can call in your meditations, join hearts and souls together. All beings join with divine consciousness. And the result of that is love, peace, and harmony. So the song itself, that's what's happening every time you chant this mantra. And I've even had deeper insights into the I. You know, when you look at the Buddhist teachings, 3 fundamental teachings in Buddhism is dependent arising. Okay, so everything that exists depends on countless other factors. So if you look at a cup, okay, the cup only exists because of the materials, the person that made the cup, the person that transported it to the factory, the shop, the person that, you know, sold it to you, whatever. If you take any of those factors away, it disappears. And this is the Buddhist teaching of emptiness. Okay, the only thing that things are empty of is a separate self. The only thing the cup isn't is a cup by itself, and also the nature of impermanence. So I might sound like I'm sidetracking there. If I look at Love, Peace, Harmony, it's telling the same story. We start off with, I love my heart and soul. Okay, we see ourselves as a unique being in the cosmos, and we are. But as we progress on our spiritual journey, the next line is that I, okay, that I loves everything, okay, is in a state of love. Then we join hearts and souls together, and then we become the nature of the Bodhisattva, which is the I is dropped. We are just living love, peace, and harmony. The nature of the Bodhisattva, there is no I that wants to heal the world. It's just pure compassion. There's no attachment to the result. It's just, there's no I that clings to anything. It's just a state of compassion. So if you sing Love, Peace, Harmony every day for the rest of your life, it's an enlightenment song. It is the blueprint to the spiritual journey. It's the blueprint for world peace. It is such a powerful mantra, and it's neutral. It's not tied to any religion. It's our movement.
That is so beautiful, Nick, the way that you explained it. You know, I have a lot of patients who have difficulty sleeping or have chaos in the workplace. And I said, just kind of play this song in the background. It doesn't have to be loud. Just play it in mute if you want to. And just watch how the environment changed. And time again, they will tell me, God, it's so much better. The chaos in the workplace is not there anymore. They're sleeping better, and they love the song. And sometimes they come in and they're like, how come you're not playing the Love, Peace, and Harmony? Because, you don't want to be where it's like, it's a spiritual thing, but like those who are open to it, I'm more than happy to share, and it really have a profound high frequency effect on the person. And when you were talking about the first line that I love my heart and soul, a lot of us, like you said, just examine the world. You see a lot of people are searching for that self-love. And to really take that and say, I really truly love myself. That's a profound statement, most that I see live outside of their body, outside of their soul. Wouldn't you say?
I agree. And I think the difference is if you're in the mind, okay, and you're loving yourself, the self that you're loving is usually the separate self. Okay, so going back to the teaching of emptiness, the Buddha said, if I see myself as Nicholas Gianassi, who's a separate being in the universe, then I feel lonely. Okay, when I realize that I only exist because of everything else, and I can see the unity and the connection to the whole, then there's a different self. There's a different self that you're observing. So I watched a documentary called Happy, and they went to India, and there was this guy who was the happiest guy in the world. He lived under a tarp. He was very poor. He lived off rice and salt, and he was a taxi driver, meaning he carried people around.
Wow.
And but he had a beautiful family and a beautiful community. Then the documentary maker went to LA, and there was all these people who were just focusing on themselves all the time, and they were all on antidepressants. And the way he finished the documentary was, true happiness comes from contribution and a sense of community. When you see yourself as a part of the whole, and you become a selfless part of that whole, you're happy. When you see yourself as a separate being in the universe, and it's you against the universe, you're always going to lose, okay? And you feel lonely. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think journey to the self is a big one.
Wow. That's so beautiful. I know we a little bit over an hour. We love hearing what Nick has to share. It's so inspiring. And then to have you have it backed up with all the research, this journey that people are beginning to awaken and searching, how would they reach you, Nick, to get more information?
Yeah, I'm going to do a website and put everything together. I'm probably most active on Facebook, and our Facebook is Nick, N-I-C-K, Dan, D-A-N, that's my wife, and Beau, B-E-A-U, Love, Nickdanbeau Love. You can follow what we're up to there in a few of my videos and teachings. But if you go on Instagram, we've got Love, Peace, Harmony Road Trip.
Wonderful. And will we be able to see your lovely family? I see them running around behind you a minute ago.
Yeah, here they are. This is the family. Here's Danielle and Beau.
Hi, Danielle. Hi, Beau.
Hi.
How are you?
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I've took my headphones out, and it's hard to hear you.
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you very
Sorry,
well.
when I pulled them out, we couldn't hear you. So.
Oh. Well, I just like to recap, and with all the wisdom that you shared with us, there's a lot of information. But just for viewers who are beginning to start the spiritual journey or is on the spiritual journey, Nick has some really great insight and research for those who are doubting. But the basic key point to take away is spend time to really nourish your body and your soul by meditations. 30 minutes a day, if you can, pamper yourself with that. Go out, walk in nature. If you're close by the beach, go get some fresh ion air from the oceans. And like Nick in Australia, that's a beautiful place that to really have a great grounding there. Also, make sure that you drink plenty of water to hydrate your body. Nutrition is very important, as the energy that are coming in now is very high, it's very strong. It's important that we keep our body healthy. And Nick was saying, be in the moment, be present, observe how you are at that moment in time. Don't live in the future, don't live in the past, and be honest to yourself. How are you feeling? What is it that you're going through? And if you feel tense, if you feel, grab a glass of water, say, I love you, chant that, just saying, I love you, I care about you. And then within 5 minutes, drink that water, and then visualize how that water going inside your body, nurturing every cell of your body. If you're suffering in pain, do the same thing. Get a glass of water and just say beautiful, lovely words. Like Dr. Emoto has showed, it makes a difference when you put thoughts into that glass of water. So these are little tips that we can provide you. Is there any other tips that you could give there, Nick?
No, you capped it up well. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. But don't always live in here. Move into the heart.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a time now where our heart, and it, like you point out, the HeartMath Institute, Dr. Bruce Lipton have mentioned, even Greg Braden. These are scientists' research that are coming out that are showing that we are moving into the heart, where our heart matters, where our heart that can make a big difference and can shift our ailment, our depression, our anxiety. It's all about our environment, how we create an environment for our body, for ourselves, and for our soul. So we want a better life, then come from the heart and let that resonate.
Absolutely. And two spiritual texts I always recommend is Eckhart Tolle's work, The Power of Now and a New Earth. I think even I think they lay a beautiful foundation, even if you wanted to go into like my teacher's teachings, Master Shah, or you want to go down Buddhism, Taoism, or whatever. His texts are very neutral and they're very profound. The New Earth explains what the ego is. We think the ego is just, loving, your appearance. It goes much deeper than that. And when we understand the mechanics of the ego, that's how we bring about a new consciousness. That's what brings in the new air. No. And those two books are beautiful foundational books. I read them. No. I've read them 40 times, Nick, each, literally.
What was the name of those two books again? So I can take note on that.
The Power of Now.
The Power Now, okay.
The Power of Now and the New Earth.
And my other recommendation on top of that, Nick, would be Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And it talks about how if you're how the frequency vibration, and if you're vibrating from fear or anxiety or grief, you're vibrating at a very, very low vibrational energy. Where if you're vibrating from love, if you feel love and if you exuberate love, your vibrational energy is at 500 or above. And when you're 500 or above, that's when you can manifest things. So if you're having a hard time manifesting things in life, or things just doesn't turn out your way, definitely work on improving your energy vibration. And if you need help, you know where to find us.
It's true. Manifestation is a beautiful topic. I'd love to talk about that next time if I'm ever welcome back onto the show.
Of course. We love to have you and your family.
Yes, my battery's about to die, so I'm gonna have to go. My battery's gonna go any minute.
Okay, well, we're gonna wrap up. We thank our viewers. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And we would love to have Nick and his family come back next time on Manifestation. So stay tuned, everyone. We love you. Make it a great week. Bye.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Nick.
Thank you.